What's up, vape fam? Sorteal here. Live build session time. If you didn't notice, I kind of changed the thumbnail at the last second because I got something in the mail today from Damn Vape. And while we're not going to build it tonight, I did kind of want to take a look at it because I have not really taken a look at the deck or anything like that. But it is this right here. It is the TMF, or the Mind Flayer RDA V2. So I'm pretty pumped about this thing. It looks like it should just be an absolute banger. It comes with two different top caps. I have never seen the V1, so I don't really know anything about that one. I did find out that the Mind Flayer is, I believe, from Spain. But I love the look of this thing. It's just sleek, no kind of branding to it. Nothing like that. And these drip tips are kind of like the Vandy Vape Wrath, where the tops unscrew and you can just change out the color by screwing down new ones. And then they've got a whole kit of another drip tip base and then all kinds of different colors. I really dig the silver and that transparent one. The pink and purple kind of made me think Bogan. All right, I actually want to take a look at this deck some. So let me take off the Wasp Nano from the Hadron Plus, because that is definitely one that we're going to do up. I actually completely forgot that I had a transparent Wasp Nano, so it was brand new in the package. This one's never been built on or anything, so anxious to kind of give that one a go. Let's check this deck out. Ooh, that's right, I did see this teased on Damn Vape's Instagram. So the coils kind of hang down and then all that airflow is coming right through there. So it's kind of laser focused right on the coil as it's hanging down. This could have just absolutely outstanding flavor. Definitely gonna have to build this up and play around with it. We're not gonna build it up tonight because I kind of want to do it where I can really look at it up close, but we'll be testing this and then the review should be up early next week. Let's check out the airflow on this. Doesn't look like it's much. It's just cutting down. Like they're both two slits open, but I think you can only cut them down like both at a time, and that's it. But I think with that opening, that's probably about all you'll need. The other top cap, let's take a look at it. Paul, what's up? Joshua, what's going on? We got somebody new in chat. It's Dusty Country Road. He actually popped in and kind of showed Dave and I a newer channel here on YouTube that I was not familiar with at all. Oh, it's a shorter one. I dig that. This Ultim is a lot shorter, so this is probably a flavor monster of a top cap right here. But we'll have to just kind of wait and see. I have taken first impressions of RDAs before and thought they were going to be flavor bangers, and they did not turn out to be like that. But just looking at this and how the airflow is and the way that your coils are actually going to hang down, I think this will be an outstanding flavor monster. Actually, I think it will be a great squonker, especially if you like to kind of squonk to the point your coils get a little saturated. They're just going to be hanging down right there in that actual juice well. This is definitely an interesting RDA. I can't wait to kind of play around with this. And like I said, the review for this should be up early next week, probably around Tuesday. I think that'll give me enough time to play around with it and kind of figure out all its pros and cons. Dave, thank you there for jumping all over that. I've noticed whoever that is has been popping up on a lot of people's channels. All right, so yeah, this. What's up, Chasing Clouds and Flavor Reviews? This is just an extra drip tip, but all of these are kind of those top pieces. Like I said, if you've ever messed around with the Vandy Vape Wrath, then you kind of already know what's going on here. These top pieces just screw down on here. So you can like easily change out the color of the drip tip if you want. I really dig that silver. But even with the Wrath, you know, I was kind of like, what's the point of that? I mean, is it really that much more expensive just to do a bunch of drip tips? But I guess it's cheaper for the company to manufacture a bunch of these screw down tops and only, you know, one or so of these. And you can end up with a bunch of different drip tips for maybe, you know, half the price, something like that. Close that up. I also sent this along. I believe this is just the yellow drip tip for the nitrous. Dan Vape always sent something extra along, it seems like, anymore. Set those off to the side. Jump back up top here for a minute. I don't know if you guys saw, I had a new review that's popped up today for this right here, the Dot Pod Nano. I've actually been using it more than I ever thought I would. And after I did the review, I kind of figured out, well, I'll set that off to the side and I'll only really use it. Pretty much like I said in the review, if I'm going somewhere that a lot of people are at that don't vape, and I don't really just want to be chucking huge mech mod plumes in their face. But I'm actually kind of enjoying these enough to vape on them here and there. Kind of been putting what I have left of commercial e-liquids in them. Like I said, this one right here has this Crucible Buzz. I don't think I can get in trouble if I show this. No. This e-liquid right here, it's a peach tangerine. It's extremely good. Then I've got the black one. I've got some Vapetasia pink lemonade. So yeah, I'm actually kind of digging them, just grabbing them here and there, taking a couple of puffs off of them. All right, so Dusty Country Roads, like I said, he mentioned a YouTube channel to Dave Lloyd and I early on before the stream started. So I kind of wanted to drop that guy's YouTube channel in chat. It's called Cross Bomb Vapes. And I actually jumped over there, took a look at it, subscribed to his channel, watched a little bit of a couple of his videos. I really need to go back through there now that I know about him and watch everything that he's got. But it seems like the guy knows what he's talking about, and I like his presentation, so definitely go check him out. I'm going to drop the link here in chat. So jump over there, subscribe, like some of his videos, give him some support. I think he's only got maybe 20 subscribers, maybe 22 after Dave Lloyd and I subscribed. Yeah, it's Crossed Bomb Vapes. There you go. There's the link in chat. So yeah, go there, show him some love. But yeah, today what we're going to do, I wanted to do this right here for sure. This is the Wasp Nano. I actually did not realize I had a transparent one that was new in the package. I have a bunch of these because they're ridiculously cheap and they're outstanding for testing e-liquids. Then I stumbled upon this one and I was like, oh, I should definitely build this thing up on a live stream. So that's probably the first one we're going to do, but also the Ponte here. I've actually been waiting like forever for the new clamps to this thing. Most everyone else got their kind of updated clamps to it where it didn't want to hold mesh really well. So if you were trying to wick it really thick, which is basically how I wick all mesh, it would let go of one side of the mesh. So they improved the clamps and then they were sending them out to anybody that purchased it pretty much for free. And it had been like a couple of months, I think, and I finally hit Orca Vapes back and I said, hey, you know, you ever send out those extra clamps? And apparently they had not, because they kind of rush shipped these two to, I believe they sent it to Joel, and then Joel forwarded it on to me. What's up, Daniel? The clear ones are your favorites. You can see the cotton the whole time. Yeah, I always really dig clear tops or glass tops. But if I'm going to order an RDA and they offer kind of a transparent acrylic top, I will normally order a black one and the transparent acrylic. See what else going on in chat. Peach tangerine sounds banging. It actually really is. I cannot remember. Think maybe I got this as kind of a throw-in from Vaping Delights. But it's really, really good. All right, the other thing that we're going to do is the Blaze, because I haven't built this up in a while and it's just kind of been sitting. And I've had a bunch of people still ask me questions about it here and there as far as like leg lead length, how do you go about wicking it, things like that. But with the Ponte, we'll go ahead, do that as well. And I'm going to stick it in the Pulse AIO 0.5. Some people asked, I do not have the mini like on its way to me or anything like that. I'm honestly not very interested in it because it's basically an 18650 version of the Pulse AIO 0.5. And the whole reason I went with the Pulse over something like the Cthulhu was the fact that it was 21700. So buying an 18650 version of it really not very appealing to me. All right, me kind of clean up some stuff over here. Pop this top off of the Wasp Nano. Excited for the RDA for Vaping V2. I don't blame you, man. It's an amazing RDA. It's a daily banger for me. You love 25 milligram juice head watermelon lime in your 0.8 pods. I love that juice head watermelon lime. That's some good stuff right there. All right, let's jump over, get started on this one. This is the Wasp Nano. If you're not familiar with this RDA, it probably means you don't do DIY because it's kind of ranted and raved about in the DIY community, and sort of for good reason. It's somewhat similar to the Hadley as far as how it just kind of has open slits, but they're kind of laser focused right on the coil. It is, of course, a single coil RDA. This one is extremely easy to build on, extremely easy to wick. So just go ahead and jump on in. Well, I'm going to put in this is the Coilology Alien V2, the 2.5 millimeter ID coils. It is a 0.3 ohm. The Wasp is the GOAT. Bow down and worship it. Yeah, I mean, as far as DIY goes, it's definitely one of the GOATs. I think there's multiple, honestly, but because the Hadley's hard to beat. It really is. That's one I need to do up here on live build. Sorry, I'm blind. And these teeny screws were messing with me. Only thing with this and really any type of RDA that's this style is you have to kind of bend your leg leads outwards. Now, of course, you can buy handmade coils where they already do that for you. Or some coil makers, you can just tell them that's the way you want it, and they'll kind of custom do it up for you. But most of the time, I just do this number right here. Simple as that. Now, this is not going to be super simple, but kind of just get it in there. And I usually have something to hold it down and kind of get it level. These teeny screws are killing me. Try and get this first one started. All right. All right. And I always drop it down so the airflow is just slammed right up against it. Kind of play around with it till you get it right up against the airflow there. Only problem here, I don't think, keeps wanting to kind of come back with the coil rod. Let me go ahead and clip these leads real quick. This would have been a pain in the ass with the old wire cutters that I had. But these right here, these Xuron wire cutters, nothing is a pain in the ass when you're cutting them with those. I think that's about got it right there. I don't think I'm touching anything. All right, see what's going on in chat. Only have one RDA, the indestructible from Wismic. Nice. Daniel, you talking about with this? Yeah, I don't have it like perfectly lined up with the airflow. Normally that's where I'll put it, is right about there, and it kind of comes in where it's angled, and then it'll come up from underneath. I know some people actually raise it way up, but I don't ever do that with the Wasp. For me, it kills the flavor when you raise it up because it doesn't fully come up the way some people think it does. All right, go ahead and try and make up a wick here. It's subjective. Everyone does it how you do it. Yeah. I get more flavor with it raised. I think I would if it was actually full on undercoil airflow, but the fact that it's not, I kind of like it hovering just above, like the top of the coil hovering just above the airflow openings. That way I get a lot of it as undercoil, but I also get that slammed into the side of the coil airflow. Don't need much in the way of wicks. Pretty much put your scissors to the base and cut it. I think because you inhale it like a dual mech. Yeah, it might. When you do that, Daniel, does it whistle like crazy on you? Or do you just play with the airflow until that whistle goes away? Seems like all the best RDAs, like single coil RDAs for flavor, have a super annoying whistle until you really kind of play with them. The Elder Dragon has a hell of one. This one does too. the Hadley has a big time whistle. And with the Hadley, it's almost impossible to get it to go away like fully. You can get it to where it kind of seems more airy. Wait a second. I did not pulse and pinch this coil. What am I doing? Sitting here talking. We better do that before we do anything else. All right. Just have to redo my wick with the other half. Still have not done the E-scrub on this. So it takes forever to cycle through these. I don't know what I was thinking there. I think I was just going and talking and trying to read chat all at the same time. Then again, some people don't. I always wondered when Coil Turd would send along a loaded RDA for vaping, how exactly you were supposed to go about that. And most people just went ahead and juiced it up and just went along with it, even though the coils were brand new. They hadn't been fired or anything like that. They weren't pre-fired. They were still just pristine, but they were all wicked up. Grab these real quick. All right. See what it came out to. Should be about 0.3 on the money. Yep. Right on 0.3. Use our other wick half. Go-to single coil is usually the Haku Vena. That's a damn good one too. That's one that doesn't whistle too bad. Don't need one, but you want one there, Chasing Cloud. That's a lot of RDAs and things like that for me. Gear acquisition syndrome. All right, try this again. I don't normally thin out the cotton on this one too terribly much. Just a wee bit. Mowgli, what's up? Got almost all of the moderators are in here tonight. I think the only one we're missing is Deb. Pop that out just a little bit. And for this one, I'm going to use my sour blue raspberry lemonade. This I actually tweaked somewhat just recently. I did use Liquid Barn Sour in this. I know a lot of people don't like Liquid Barn Sour, but I think it's amazing at brightening up fruits, kind of like using lemon or something like that. But if you don't want the taste of lemon messing with anything else you got going on in a recipe, Liquid Barn Sour works amazing. Doesn't really turn anything sour, but it will tartan and brighten stuff up. But with this, I wanted it to be, I know there's no way to get sour, but I was kind of interested in getting it as tart as possible. Maybe tart enough that tricks your brain sometimes into thinking it's sour. So I swapped it for Loran's tart and sour, which I think is one of the few that actually works as far as really making liquids tart. and being an enhancer. Steve-O, what's going on? Recognize this deck anywhere? I think everybody would, especially from like the top down view, because these are just colossal. I think that ought to do it. There's not much wick to break in. Another good thing about the Wasp Nano. All right, jump back over. Drip a little more in here. Might crank my wattage up some. Actually, more than some. All right. Here we go. Hopefully the whistle is not too insane and we don't blow anybody's eardrums out. I've already tried to cut it down some to hopefully cut that out. Definitely got to turn it up more. There it goes. That's really good. One of the things with like the Wasp Nano, and I mean, Daniel and Chasing Clouds and Mowgli and Dave already probably know this. I'm basically preaching to the choir tonight. Is that with a single coil that has very directed airflow, it really brings out every kind of subtlety that's going on in an e-liquid. So you don't have kind of whatever that top note is once it hits, just taking over everything. With a single coil, it's more laying the whole recipe out extremely nicely. You can definitely tell what's the top note, what's the base, things like that. But you can also taste really everything else that's going on in that recipe crystal clear. And a lot of other styles of RDAs just really don't allow that. It's like in this, I can really taste the fact that there is some of Perillum's sour raspberry in here. It's a little bit distinct from the Wonder Flavor Sour Blue Raspberry Candy, even though it's relatively low. Vapeaholic, yeah. I think that's all of us. You're in the right company there, Dusty Country Road. I love this RDA. It's excellent for testing e-liquids. And it's a great RDA for just using kind of on the daily. Doesn't really take much to build. It's super easy to wick. I think that's another thing that made it so popular, especially in the DIY community, was it was easy to rewick. So if you're testing a bunch of flavors, testing a bunch of recipes, and you hit that one recipe that's just not coming out of your wicks no matter what, doesn't take very long to rewick this thing at all. I'm actually kind of glad that I went ahead and built this up, because here recently I've been using both of my main nitrous RDAs for different things. I've got the one that I've been kind of just vaping nothing but my berries in the mist recipe, and then the other one's on a squonk. So I haven't really had those for testing. I've actually been testing a lot of stuff on dual coils sitting on top of mech mods, and I'd really like to go back to using a nice single coil RDA. So now that I busted this one out and built it all up, probably what's going to happen with this. Now that all the DIY gurus are in here, what are some other RDAs that you guys really like to use for testing e-liquids other than something like the Wasp? I'd say everybody probably likes the Hadley somewhat. Hadn't been whistling on me too bad. Let me see if I can set it and get it just to scream. There it goes. Like the drop 1.5, nice. The Elder Dragon is amazing. That's another one that I've kind of got just sitting over on the shelf, and I really need to bust it out as well. Helheim S and the Indestructible, nice. All right, I need to find something to stick this on. Hang on just a second. All right. Bad thing about the Wasp Nano, there's no stopper for it. So if you've got it on your mod pretty tight, more than likely you're going to have to take the top cap off to really get a grip on it to get it to come off there. I'm going to stick it on this Lost Vape Centaurus. And I need to stick a battery in here. All right, so next up, I'm going to go ahead and do the Ponte. This one might take a minute because I got to replace those clamps. And then my wicking method for doing mesh, especially in kind of an RTA-like format, is a little time consuming, but nothing too crazy. I did have just a single coil in the Ponte for a while, and I really dug that. It actually uses a single coil extremely well. But I was missing it as a mesh Boro bridge. I've always thought that Boro tanks and Boro devices were kind of tailor-made for mesh. Turn this one down so I don't just blow my coil out and fuse it together. There we go. Dick Fatkins, you like the Hadley? Yeah, I do too. I really dig the Hadley. Even the clone that oh, I can't remember the company that did the actual really good clone of the Hadley. Even that one is pretty damn good. So I don't know if I've burnt myself out on Boro devices or what. I think it's just the fact that they're RTAs, basically. They're little teeny RTAs, and I've never been huge on RTAs. But I just am having trouble pumping myself up for any type of Boro device or Boro bridge, anything like that. Somebody on Instagram mentioned, I think it was Mr. Sleepster, mentioned the, I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but it's an RTA that just came out. I think it was from Across Vapes and maybe Dapo, possibly, that actually uses Boro bridges inside of it. I guess so you can use Boro bridges on the standard mod in like an RTA format. And he asked if I had seen it or heard about it. And I'd seen Legion Vape's review of it, and I'd already kind of seen it teased around. But to me, it seemed just weird because it's like, okay, so it's an RTA that's already not going to have as good a flavor as something like an RDA. There are some that do, but relatively few. So it's going to be one of those. And now you want to stick a smaller RTA that's almost guaranteed to have at least slightly less flavor. Few exceptions to that, but for the most part. So you want to take RTA and stick a less flavorful mini version of that RTA inside of the original RTA, and it just seems, I don't know, it seemed ridiculous to me. So I have zero interest in that one as well. But maybe something will come along that kind of piques my interest again, I'm sure. If they ever do a second version of the atemporal or some kind of updated version to this right here, the Ponte, I will definitely be interested. Let me swap over here. All right, so I'm replacing these clamps. I took the originals off. Basically, as I said before, what the originals did was they just would not clamp down on that mesh very well at all. Well, I mean, they would hold on to it, but if you wanted to try and wick it thicker or anything like that, it just would not hold on to the mesh properly. As soon as you tried to put any kind of thick wicking or pull up on the mesh at all, one side of the deck or another would just let go of the mesh. Then you'd have to redo it all over again, which meant that I could not do my favorite way of wicking mesh, which is a pretty thick wick job. It still vaped extremely good and the flavor off of it was amazing, but it also meant that I was going to get the dreaded mesh cotton fall hit, which is enough to just scare anybody away from mesh, probably for a lifetime. Unless you're a sadist like me and you just were like, no, I gotta figure this out. All right, hopefully these work. Fingers crossed. Connor, what's going on, brother? Just dropped your nick from 3 milligram to 1.5. Raving real bad. Hopefully it will subside soon. I didn't hardly notice it at all, but everybody's different. Yeah, I hope it subsides too, brother. All right, the mesh that I'm actually going to use in this is from Wire Optim. I better look at that before I show you guys. Yeah, all right, it's from Wire Optim. It is a stainless steel mesh strip. I did that earlier filming that Dot Mods Nano pod, where I actually showed the box for the replacement pods and wasn't even paying attention to the fact that there's a big fat URL for Dot Mods on the side of it. I had to redo that whole part. I really wish YouTube would just get over that kind of stuff. I don't understand why it's such a big deal with vape channels, but you see even like cigarette reviews and alcohol channels that show packagings with URLs all over them and nothing happens to them. Let me bend this a little better. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do on camera, but I will give it the old college try. All right, just gotta straighten this up some. And it's easier to do it off camera because the mesh strip is just so small. All right, I think that'll work right about there. So I always glow mesh. You've got a lot of people that just claim you don't really need to do that, anything like that, because you're not pulsing, pinching, strumming, nothing like that. But I always like to kind of get any type of maybe machine oil or something like that that's left over on it. Just get that burnt off there. All right, seems pretty good. See if I can get these tightened down really well. Just so I can wick this up pretty thick. All right, grab a wick. Had a 510 pin rust out on a profile RDA. That sucks. All right, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm taking a wick piece like this, which is already pretty close to being a 6mm strip. And then I'm going to add to it a strip that is almost a 3mm strip. If you all ever saw my wicking video for mesh, I'm basically doing the same thing, just not quite as extreme. Well, it might be almost as extreme. We'll see. Oh yeah, there we go. So just a crazy amount of cotton there, for this at least. And then what I'm going to do, I've seen a lot of video. I go over this anytime I do mesh. Just look at that huge. You'll see a lot of people talk about cutting mesh at an angle like that. Don't do that, because you want the liquid to go up the cotton and get to the actual mesh itself, to get underneath that mesh. So do it in the reverse way. Joel actually had a great video where he was showing, you know, how people were talking about cutting it like that. And he was like, well, that was the initial way, but you were supposed to spin it while it was inside there. It was just easier to cut it at that angle and then spin the cotton. So the long side is actually up top, but I almost find it easier to kind of cut it at an angle more like this. Not like that, sorry. Don't pay any attention to me. Like this, sorry. There we go. All right. And then with it being a RTA or RDTA style, I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a haircut underneath. I think that almost might be enough. I did recently get the Profile X in. One thing I'll say is you can almost tell that Joel had nothing to do with that one. Not that it's bad per se, but it's very different. Kind of a top airflow. which is a little weird. And it's very finicky with its wicking. I may have kind of jacked this side up some, but I think it'll be all right. All right, doesn't look too terrible. I'm going to use this Vape Pink Lemonade. What I've normally been vaping when I'm using mesh on this. Being as it's a ton of cotton, you really have to just soak the living hell out of it. But after you get it kind of initially saturated, it really doesn't use much more juice than, say, something like a dual coil RDA or RTA. Clean this up just a hair. It's like the Profile M RTA, but with those holes for coils. Just not a great RTA in my opinion. It's I'm in a weird place with it, because if you get it done right, it actually has amazing flavor if the Profile X is what you're talking about. But it's extremely hard to get it there every single time, to get it to just that perfect place. Not something that can be easily wicked perfectly every single time, I've noticed. But now it actually works fairly well with coils, but the fact that it's a top airflow, the flavor is just not very good with coils. I don't know. I really don't know what they were thinking with the airflow on that thing. All right, let me stick the top back on this. And we will fill the tank up. I can get the flap off of here. Come on, bro. Well, why is it stuck? There we go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and swap back over, because nothing glamorous about filling up a tank. All right. Now we'll swap back over for this. Grab a battery real quick. Now, the one cool thing with the Ponte, it's very similar to the atemporal overall, but the atemporal requires very specific panels. You have to have some type of airflow up here, but with the Ponte, where it's kind of cut out on the sides and this top indents inward a little bit more, you can actually use standard panels and it will still get airflow. Does work a little bit better with panels like say the ones that come with the atemporal, but really it works just fine even if you use it with panels like these, because like I said, it's all indented on the side here and here, so as your airflow comes in, it travels up those channels and then gets to where it needs to go. All right. Put my weird orange drip tip back on here. New coil. All right. Turn this down a bit and let's see how this goes. Cross our fingers. Oh, actually it seems fine, at least for now. We won't really know for a few pulls. Addy, what's going on, brother? We have to give Addy a wrench just because I don't know of too many vape channels that Addy kind of jumps into that he doesn't have a wrench. So it would feel weird if you were here without a wrench. All right. Addy, I tagged you on Facebook. Yeah, you got to have a wrench, Addy. It's just, it's a necessity. It would make me feel too weird. Yeah, so far this is working great. I have not gotten a single dry hit. Seems like it's working so far. That's the other thing. You got to have that wrench so you can drop those outstanding. I'm assuming you got like a notepad with just a bunch of great links so you can just copy and paste real quick. I love that shit. Anyone know how to stop chronically over dripping on an RDA? I mean, not really. I guess just probably get to a point where you're vaping it down till you almost taste cotton before you actually drip again. And then just try not to dump too much juice in there. Yeah, or like Chasing Cloud says, keep checking your wick. But I know that can get annoying too, so. Oh, nice. Thank you there, Mowgli. I will definitely check that out. Steve-O, you're OCD, so you count your drops. I'm not that way. I don't count my drops or anything like that. And I have been known to over drip quite often, but I always try and get a little better at it. If this is an RDA, I really know, like say the Asgard Mini, Nightmare 25, even the Profile, I don't normally over drip those ever because I'm just so familiar with them. Still not getting any dry hits, and normally by now from kind of chain vaping this one, I would at least start to kind of get a mild cotton note, I would assume, but it seems like it's going pretty good. Definitely no cotton taste and no dry hits whatsoever. Wait till it's almost dry before I drip again. always wait until I'll take pulls off of it until I can kind of get a little bit of that cotton taste, and then I'll just few drops. And if it gets a little too cotton, tastes a little too quick, I might drip a little bit more. But for the most part, I always wait for that cotton flavor to really hit before I drip again. Typically just get a feel for it after a bit of time with something. I also really like RDAs I can pop and paint. I can't stand popping and painting, but yeah, if that's your thing, hell yeah. All right. I think this worked pretty well. I'm just chain vaping on this. I have not gotten a single dry hit, no nothing. It's wicking phenomenally. That Vapetasia pink lemonade, which I don't vape very often, but I do like it in Boral devices or in pods. So that's kind of what I went with. It's actually coming through on that extremely well. The Ponte is probably, I think, the most flavorful Boral bridge out there. I don't really... The Atemporal would probably be the next closest. But either using mesh or a coil with the Ponte definitely makes it the most flavorful Boral bridge out there, in my opinion, because it does so well with either. And now that they've got those improved clamps, I was able to wick that with that kind of really, really heavy wick job, and it didn't release the mesh on me or anything like that. So I'm very, very happy with those new clamps. All right. So next up on the docket is, actually, I don't need the Hadron for it. We're just going to do it straight on this Mag 18, which, yes, I actually still kind of use. Going to do the Blaze here. I've actually had this sitting with some coils in it. No wicks, anything like that. It had been cleaned up. But I decided I wanted to go ahead, put new coils in this thing, and also wanted to do it live because a few people had been asking about leg lead length and wicking and things like that. So I figured we just go ahead, do it up on the live. And the coils I had in it were getting a little old, so they probably needed to be chucked anyway. All right. Anyone watch the Jay Hayes vid on the Ponte? I did not. I believe Apathy Miller told me a few things about it, but I don't watch Jay too much anymore. Every once in a while, but very rarely. Speaking lemonades, caught the live mixing replay question where you asked about most used concentrates. Loran's lemonade is definitely one of yours. Yeah, that's a good one. As far as, there's probably a lot of people that have that on their most used concentrate list. I need to hydrate. Chasing Clouds, you quit watching him years ago. I kind of did too. Once his, I don't know. I'm not going to talk shit about anybody. But there was just a point with his stuff that I kind of just drifted away from it. You know, that was basically it. But, you know, what he was doing seemed to be working for him. So more power to him. But it just wasn't for me any longer. All right. So I'm going to use Coilology Alien V2s. These are what I had in it before, I do believe. They're 0.21. They normally come out to about 0.09 or 0.1, somewhere in there. Now, where somebody asked about leg lead length, I normally cut them to a 5. I've seen people cut them even shorter than that, but 5 seems to work best for me. One coil. And 2 coil. Clean that up a little bit. So this is still probably my second or third favorite RTA ever. Just because the flavor off of this thing is so good. I think I've got them backed out far enough. I'm gonna roll with it and see if I actually do or not. Nope, not this one. There we go. I think I have this one backed out far enough. Yeah. And like I said, you can cut them shorter than this. Actually, what am I doing? I need to be using this. You can cut them shorter than this. Actually, this one. And get it a little bit closer to that deck, but you kind of miss part of the side airflow that's also going to hit the underside of the coil. So I like them about 5. That way I'm kind of getting almost 360-degree airflow all around the coil. That down in there. And I do like that this is one you can kind of just drop both coils in there, clamp them down, and wait to do all your repositioning after the fact. You don't have to clamp one coil down and then kind of position it to get it the hell out of the other one's way. You can just clamp them down and go. At this point, I just kind of straighten them up. And it's relatively easy with this one because, you know, they're going to sit in those little half pipes pretty easy. Just don't want them touching anything and you're good. That right there is probably about perfect. Oh, it's not going to let me fire on this one because the ohms are coming out too low. So I will have to put it on the Hadron Plus. Kind of a downside, and this is one thing I don't like about a lot of smoke, geek vape, few other companies, regulated devices, is if you have a coil or a pair of coils that just comes out too low, it will not fire it. This, of course, being DNA, will fire whatever the hell you want as long as it doesn't exceed the amperage limit. I think 46 is good. Also, another reason I had a couple of people ask about things like the 521 tab and that sort of thing. And normally my answer is just go get either a DNA or a mod that you know will fire all the way down to like 0.05. Something like the Gower 21 or the Gower 18. Also the Pulse V2 will fire all the way down to 0.05. Something like that instead of something like the tab or what is it, the futon from BP mods. Now there's ways around that. You could use voltage, but if the coils are too low and they exceed that amperage, it's just not going to fire it. So if you like low builds, it's you probably need a DNA device. Getting a little bit of crackle there from where I just recently cleaned this out, so there's probably still a little bit of liquid in there and a little bit of water. There it goes. I don't think I'm getting too many. No more hot spots. All right, let that cool for a minute. Swap back over. Make up some wicks. Yeah, I'm not a huge RTA fan. I've said that many a times. I do really like the Fatality M25 remastered and the Blaze here. Also, the nitrous RTA I think is just absolutely extraordinary. But most of the time, how low will the Yeehee fire? Never tried super low. I'm pretty sure the Yeehee chip will fire. I think it's like the DNA chip, where as long as it doesn't exceed the amperage, it'll fire whatever you want. So it's basically like a mech mod. As long as it's not going to push the amperage overboard, it's going to go ahead and fire it. So with Yeehee, it's kind of like DNA. It'll fire it all the way down to probably 0.06, 0.05, if not lower. But yeah, not huge on RTAs. Kind of the reason why I'm also not super huge on Boro devices or Boro bridges. I remember when the billet box first came out, I had zero interest in that device. Then I kind of heard a lot of rumors about the community being rather toxic. So wasn't too interested in that either, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt because I'm not just going to go on somebody's word necessarily. But I don't know, it wasn't so much toxic, but they did have kind of that price gouging type of culture going on there for a little while. It's gotten way better, but still just, I don't know, it was a little bit too much for something I already wasn't that interested in, if you know what I mean. And then once the Pulse AIO came out, I got a little more interested. But now there's not a whole lot of bridges coming out that really pique my interest. I do want to try the Ether. But other than that, there's not too many that are coming out that I'm extremely interested in. All right. Got one wick in. Now these coils came out a nice shade of blue. So for this one, I'm actually going to use my shortbread cookie shake. Basically, I did that butter cookie custard recipe, and then after that, I liked the idea so much of it that I was like, hey, let's do this up as a milkshake. So for these to cut the wicks, where somebody had asked about this, I generally kind of fold it down on the sides there, and you want to cut it to where it's about like that, just barely hanging over this base lip here. So about like that. I may actually cut that a little too short, but we'll see. Go ahead, brush them out. Always seems like about this time of year, releases of rebuildables kind of slow down. You get a lot of that kind of Christmas thing going on, holiday buying season, and a ton of regulated devices, sub-ohm tanks. The things that really sell a ton are what companies focus on, which I can't blame them, but be nice if there was a pickup in rebuildables around the holiday season, but is what it is. Although I'm kind of glad, you know, uh, the TMF RDA V2 came out right around this time. The Dead Rabbit Solo, which I have pre-ordered and should be on its way here pretty soon. That Profile X. A few other ones, so it's not like it's a completely dry season. All right. So some people like to kind of cut the edges off of these. So they'll kind of flatten it out and then cut these little edgeways. I don't normally do that. I'll just kind of take it, tuck it in there. But the thing is, it just can't be too tight. That's really the biggest thing. You want to make sure like your tweezers can still get down in there and kind of shift the wick around, but they can also kind of touch the bottom with no problem, and they're not pulling on the wick too much when you go to actually kind of try and touch the base there. Same thing over here. Kind of mic vapes, flip them in there. Then I generally try and divide them a little bit down the middle. And tucked in pretty good. And then just make sure they're not too bunched up. I can still kind of freely move them around inside there. And I can touch the base without pulling on them too much. But now with the Blaze, it should be kind of pulled down just a little bit. You don't necessarily want them too fluffed out, because then your wicks are kind of going to darken a lot quicker from actually touching the sides of the dome here. All right, I think that looks good. Grab this shortbread cookie shake. It's actually a pretty simple RTA to wick. Just don't try and fluff out your wicks too terribly bad, and then make sure that they're loose enough in there that you can kind of pinch them with your tweezers and shake them around, no problem. And you can still get your tweezers down into the base without really tugging on the wicks too much, or the wicks getting in your way too much. All right, coils came out to 0.1. This RDA for vaping V2 is just so easy to build. It really is. It's drop your coils down, clamp them, position them a little bit, juice them up. There you go. You don't need much wick. Very similar to the original, or very similar to something like the Drop or the Dead Rabbit or the Hell Beast. I love this RDA. I cannot wait. I really hope he comes out with some more interesting kind of AFC rings for it, because it's one of those RDAs that just has a huge amount of potential. And I'm sure, I don't know, I'm sure Beecher's probably already thought of all this, or he's had people around him tell him like, hey, you should make a single coil AFC ring, since the AFC ring handles all of the way the airflow is actually channeled and done. You could do a single coil one. You could do one that only had honeycomb. You could do one that had an even wider. You could do one that did multiple slits. You could do one that did just the 3, 2, 1 kind of hole styles of the original RDA for vaping. So I can't wait to see if he actually comes out with a bunch of different types of AFC rings, because that could totally change the way that RDA vapes and make it just amazing. It's one of the few RDAs that has just a ton of growth potential already built into it. All right, I think that's good enough. Go ahead, stick this on there, easy enough. Just line up the cutouts with the sides of the dual half pipe. Oh, dripped a little liquid down on there. All right, jump back over. So it's not a quarter turn quick release for filling this up, as anybody that owns it already knows. But I think that has a lot to do with pressure. I'm not too upset about it. And because this thing vapes and hits just so perfect that I could really, I can give up a quarter turn quick release for the performance that this thing offers. A little bit of this liquid I kind of spilled out there. Trying to get the, putting it back into the tank section on camera. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and crank my wattage up since it's 0.1. Start out about 75. Although I know I'm gonna have to crank it up higher than that, but I'd like to kind of let my wick start out a little slowly. Does it run hot? I haven't had it run hot. You talking about an RDA for vaping V2? I've got some 0.09 Twisted Timmy's Fralians in this that I'm using on a mech, and it's never really gotten hot on me. So no, I haven't had it run hot at all. If it was going to run hot, it would have done it already. And at one point I had some 0.08s in there and it still didn't run hot. Oh, that's really good. Find I get a lot of spit back when refilling, tilting it, etc. with the Blaze. I haven't gotten a whole lot of spit back from it. Starting at 75 watts, dang late to the fire party. I mean, I'm gonna go way above that. Let's go ahead and crank it up to, I'm just gonna go ahead and go to 90. Ugh, I have to e-scribe this. I think I'm definitely, that's what's going to be like my Christmas thing. If I'm going to do a video of the Christmas, you know, kind of a Christmas special type of deal, definitely going to be an e-scribe beginner's tutorial, because I have to get this thing changed around. Those 1 or 0.1 watt increment increase and decrease is killing me. Yeah, that's really good. Then I've always ran the coils at 4.5 millimeter, not 5 millimeter. Oh, so you've got it a little bit closer there. I don't think that really shouldn't change anything as far as spit back or anything like that. I would imagine if it's spit back, it's probably your wicking more so than anything. Make sure we're getting bubbles. One thing about this one, it's kind of hard to catch the bubbles. There they go. All right. One watt adjust is annoying as fuck. Yeah. I don't know, but most, like anybody that does the DNA board and they don't really modify it at all before they stick it in their device, it's always, I guess that's the default setup, is just 0.1 watt incremental up and down, and it sucks. I'm really hoping I can set it. It's been a while since I've messed with eScribe, and I know they've done a ton of updates to it since I messed with it, that I can actually change it to where it does 0.1 watt incremental increase or decrease from, you know, 5 watts up to say 20 watts or 25 watts. Then after that, from, you know, 26 watts up to maybe 50, it does 0.5 watt increments. And then anything after that is 1 watt increments at a time. It does. It takes forever. And this doesn't really speed up super fast. Sometimes when you're just kind of holding it down, and you would expect that eventually it's just going to start going at 1 watt or even 5 watt increments at a time from you holding it down. It does not do that. I only change one thing at a time in eScribe. Yeah, that happened to me the first time I ever messed with eScribe. I tried to change way too much all at once, and it really just screwed everything up. This is the Hadron Plus. Dave Lloyd, you have a good night. Thanks for coming out, brother. Yeah, it's the Hadron Plus. Yeah, this is working fantastic. I love this RTA. I love that it proved me wrong about RTAs. I did not have a whole lot of high expectations for this thing, but it ended up becoming just one of the best atomizers out there. All right. We got all those built up. I'm glad I got the Wasp Nano built up. I cannot believe I just completely forgot I had this thing. But now I've got something that is just single coil to test e-liquids with again, since all my nitrous are kind of indisposed at the moment. And I love a DNA, but damn, they're pricey. Found Lost Vape with their Quest chips are very similar in function to the DNA boards. Yeah, they kind of are. They're not quite as accurate as the DNA boards. But if you're not trying to go super low where you're really worried about accuracy, then that's not even that big of an issue. The chasing clouds, you're talking about the Blaze. Yeah, hopefully sometime around next year they'll kind of come down. I know there are a few places here in the States that I'm not going to mention on YouTube because I don't want to get in trouble, but that still have them, I should say. And I think they've gone down in price pretty good. You catch a sale, it probably wouldn't be that bad at all. Yeah, I love that RTA. It still doesn't top the Fatality M25 in my opinion, but I don't know of any RTA that tops that thing. It's just everything I want in an RTA. Actually, let's try the Ponte again. It's been sitting for a minute. Plenty of time to juice up. Yeah. Tastes delicious. Chasing clouds, you know where to go. All right, cool, brother. Glad. Gonna have to hit you up somewhere else and be like, here, here, and here. Yeah, the Quest chipset will fire below 0.1. I think it follows the same rule that the DNA boards and the Vandy Vape chip that's in the Gower 21 and the Pulse V2 follow, where as long as you don't exceed the amperage limit that they set, then it'll fire down to whatever hits that kind of border. Yeah, still no cotton taste. And I'm glad I can wick it up that way again, because with mesh, a lot of times I'm not a huge fan of the mesh RTAs. The only one that I really like is the Profile M, although the Dead Rabbit M actually surprised me. That was a pretty damn good one. And I have, since I did the review for that and kind of played around with it, did that really thick wick job to it, and actually got it to wick right with having that huge ball of cotton actually underneath the mesh there, and it works outstanding. Same thing with the Profile M, although the Profile M is a little more finicky to kind of get right, but once you do, I really enjoy that one. The Unity, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the Unity. I can get it to wick just fine and everything like that, but there's something off about it. The flavor's not where a mesh rebuildable should be, at least in my opinion. And that's kind of the same thing going on with this Profile X, but I'll have the review for it up here pretty soon. So sure, I'll tell you all about my frustrations and woes of that one. But I still think overall the Profile X can be a good mesh RTA. Devs Brody, what's going on, brother? Chasing Clouds, the Unity is a lot of people's favorite mesh RTA, but nothing really per se wrong with it. But I don't know, I don't get the flavor off of it that I do from a lot of other mesh rebuildables. I keep bracing every time I hit this. It's like, all right, is this going to be the dry hit one? And not so much for the wick job or the mesh or anything like that, but just because it uses those stainless steel wicking rods, I know that there's a point of chain vaping it that those stainless steel wicking rods just cannot keep up. I'll tell you right now, they're keeping up pretty damn good. I'm honestly shocked. All right, I kind of want to look at this thing again and also just show anybody that wasn't here when the stream just first started. This thing right here. Oop, sorry there, camera. This is the TMF RDA V2, the Mind Flare V2 RDA from Damn Vape and the Mind Flare. I thought that the Mind Flare was an individual, kind of like a collaboration with, say, a reviewer or something along those lines. But I actually think it's a group or a company. They have a site, they have a Instagram page that's the Mind Flare Vape Co, I think is what it is. But I really dig the look of this thing. And it's, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like textured all the way around that. Really dig that. Hopefully there's no URLs down here. No, there's not. Definitely hybrid mechanical mod safe. It looks like it actually uses, no, it doesn't, does it? No. Thought it used that layering like the Ripsaw does, where the peak right there actually comes all the way out and sits flush with the threading. This almost does, but not quite. Yeah, I'm pumped to try this thing out. I like that it has two different top caps and it actually comes with both of them. Better look at that before I flip that over. Yeah, no, there's a QR code on the other side. Can't be doing that. YouTube will scream at me. Chasing Clouds, that's the TMF RDA V2 from Damn Vape and the Mind Flare. I'm pretty sure that's what the TMF means, is the Mind Flare V2 RDA. Actually looks really cool. The deck on it is extremely cool. All right, so what else is going on? What's the vaping news here recently? Any kind of new vape news going on? Devs Brody, what are you building on and what did I miss? The last thing that I built up was this right here, the Blaze. I did this basically because I needed to actually put a new build in it and re-wick it. But I'd had a couple of people in comments on videos and also in chat and a couple of emails actually asking me questions about wicking this and what, leg lead length I use and all that. So I just decided to go ahead and do it on a live build. That way they would have reference to it along with the initial review. And I've got my shortbread cookie milkshake in here. Although this is the pre-tweak version of this. So this has like, I think it's like 1.25 or maybe even 1.5. Surely to God, it's 1.25 of FA milk in here. And the first time that I did it up, it was way, way too much milk. And I think this is kind of the pre-tweaked version of it. Now in the recipe, it uses 1% FA milk, and there's really no other type of milky cream in there. And it works a lot better, but kind of learned my lesson that just listen to everybody else and don't push FA milk too much. Waiting on my TMF V2, should be here any day. Nice. It definitely looks like a killer RDA, especially if you like squonking. I think it's just going to be an absolutely phenomenal squonking RDA. Is mesh easier to set up than traditional coils? It's easier to, in general, like if you're just kind of slapping it together, it's easier because you don't have to pulse and pinch, things like that. But if you want to really do it right, it's probably slightly more intricate, at least as far as the wick job goes. The wicking of mesh is kind of an art in a way. Actually, Linda from Noted, she has just a bunch of different ways to wick mesh that are really unique, and almost all of them seem to work. She actually told me one for the Profile M and kind of tried to mimic what she was telling me, and it actually worked extremely well. Apparently she has a wick job for the Profile X that works every single time, and it uses very little cotton in the actual wick wells from what she's telling me. So I'm kind of curious to get her instructions on that and see if it actually works, but I'm gonna head out, brother. Thanks for the great stream. Chasing clouds, man. You take it easy, brother. But yeah, it's probably about the same between mesh and coils, really. But the wicking is a little more intricate in mesh if you really want to get it right. As far as a mesh RDA, my favorite is actually an RDTA, which is the Profile RDTA, but you can convert it into just an RDA. And it's the best mesh RDA I've ever personally tried. Uses kind of the wider mesh that Watofo has. It also takes coils, as far as it has leg lead inserts for individual coil leg leads. A 3.5 millimeter N80 fuse Clapton in the Ponte is great. A 3.5 millimeter, I don't know. Guess it might not be that bad. That might fit. I like using the 3 millimeter and the 2.5 millimeter ID coils with the Ponte, but I think it just does way better with mesh overall. This stainless steel mesh that I've got in here is working phenomenally. I did it with the Clapton mesh initially when I first got it, and I loved that, but I couldn't wick it thick enough. Kind of the downside of that Clapton mesh is it has cotton collapse that happens way quicker than any type of standard mesh. So eventually you're going to get one of those little Clapton wires is going to glow somewhere and just start melting cotton and instantaneously vaporizing every little bit of liquid around it. And it's going to be horrible. But you can wick it up extremely kind of heavy like I did with the Ponte tonight, and it doesn't really happen anywhere near as quick. Of course, eventually it's going to happen. It happens with coils, happens with mesh, but you get kind of an early warning sign. All of a sudden the heat will go up. You'll be vaping on it and then heat will go up and you'll be like, oh, this is great. It's like vaping on low resistance coils. But no, that's kind of your warning sign that the cotton is about to collapse from the mesh or the Clapton mesh. I get why they call it Clapton mesh, but it's not mesh. It's really just a bunch of Clapton wires in kind of a mesh-like frame. Mark, I may have to try that 3.5. I don't know. Because it does seem like if you use a 3mm ID coil, there is space left. So, vape news of Cyber Monday sales were kind of scary. How bad? Yeah. Now, the flavoring companies, they had some damn good ones. VSO had that 40% off. What was it? Black Friday through Cyber Monday sale. I ordered just an absolute ton of raws. So yeah, I was pumped about the flavoring sales. Also, Mullenberry had 35% off. I ordered a bunch directly from them. All right, guys, that's all I've got to build up tonight. The review for the TMF will be up pretty soon, probably around Tuesday. The review for the Profile X should be up relatively soon. It may be around the same amount of time, but I'd say Wednesday, because I still want to play with it a little more, and I kind of want to get a hold of Linda and try her wick method for it before I really pass judgment upon it. But that's it for this evening, guys. I really appreciate every single one of y'all coming out, hanging out at the live stream. Addie, I love that you showed up, came by. I definitely had to give you a wrench. Daniel, Sam, thank you guys for showing up. Vape on, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Wait. Sam said, hey, I'm going to mix this shit. Oh, you're going to listen to this while you mix some shit. Yeah, sorry, man. It's the end. Not much to listen to except for me say bye. All right. Vape on. I'll catch you guys in the next one.